she had spent 50 years with a man she adored, she really truly loved, and her world fell apart in a second. And at the age of 68, she had to find the strength that she wouldn't believe she would have in herself. And this is her message to the world, actually.
Stéphane, it's been a truly extraordinary trial. We've all watched agog, really. What are your reflections the morning after?
Well, I think just as for my client, Gisèle Pelicot, I feel relieved that we reached the end of the this process, which has been very demanding, very painful, but that has generated a lot of hope and was full of surprises. Because when we arrived on the 2nd of September in Avignon, we were prepared to face a very, very difficult trial, and it has been very difficult, very hard, but it ended on, I would say, well, Giselle's last statement really gave the idea that there is something positive that needs to come out of this process.
Yeah, and it was extraordinarily positive given what she's been through. Have you spoken to her today? How is she?
Well, she is resting because she is very tired, but she is also relieved. She feels relieved because she didn't know if she could see if she would find the strength to attend the hearing up until the end. One should remember that at first, when she arrived on the 2nd of September this year for the first day of the trial, her initial goal was to attend the trial for at least 2 weeks. This is what she had in mind. If I managed to be there only for 2 weeks, then I would have achieved my goal. And then we know what happened next. She stayed for 3.5 months.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. And she had this idea at the start that she wanted shame to change sides, and therefore she was going to waive her anonymity so that she would not herself be ashamed. Was that her idea? Did you talk about it? Can you take us back to the moment where you first discussed that?
When she said that she wanted shame to change side, she meant that as many victims, most of them truly, victims of sexual assault, victims of rape, there is very often a feeling of shame. And Gisèle experienced this feeling. Shame because she knew that there were somewhere videos, films of her rapes who were in the hands of strangers, who had been reviewed many, many times by strangers, and that could be possibly played in open court. And who wouldn't be ashamed to have his privacy invaded and exposed that way? It's sometimes people can discuss amongst them about very hard topics like an illness, like an accident, but it's very hard to discuss about a sexual assault because it's something that's very private and it's special. It's something that people would not like to discuss, even if they can discuss other hardships that they may have to face in life.
Yeah.
And Gisèle wanted for that to change, and she found the strength to face that, and she wanted to give the strength to others to do the same.
Did you worry when she said she wanted to waive her anonymity? Did you talk through the risks of doing that and how hard?
We definitely discussed about the consequences of this decision. The consequences would mainly be that, her life would never be the same. And what she told us is that her life has already changed, and she needed to feel that she needed to believe that something positive needed to come out of all of that. If she had not done that, she would have maybe felt that it was all for nothing, that there would be no positive outcome. Because if the only thing was the conviction of the people who assaulted her, well, of course, this is something that was important to her, but what she really, truly wanted was for her story to be known in order to help understand, well, why there is this kind of problems today in our society.
I couldn't help but be struck yesterday, the scenes outside the court, this very small woman surrounded by a lot of men, the police trying to protect her from the crowds. And it just struck me that she describes herself as an ordinary woman, but she has unleashed this extraordinary outpouring of love and admiration across the world. I wonder what you, watching that, felt.
Well, I felt very proud to have represented her, very proud to have her trust, very, of course, admirative. I mean, I really admire her, but why I admire her for is really that she is very humble. She doesn't feel, and she truly feels that she is ordinary. She doesn't feel extraordinary. And she doesn't want for people to believe that she's extraordinary. Otherwise, people could think, I'm not like Mrs. Pelicot. I couldn't do the same thing as she did. But she said in open court during her second statement, I want people to think, to believe, if Mrs. Pelicot did it, I can do it. She wants for the women to know that they have the strength in themselves, even if they believe that they don't, but they actually do, to face the impossible. And this is what she did. She was 68. She had spent 50 years with a man she adored, she really truly loved, and her world fell apart in a second. And at the age of 68, she had to find the strength that she wouldn't believe she would have in herself. And this is her message to the world, actually.
And as her fame really grew around the world, did she find that overwhelming? What did she tell you?
Well, she is a woman who is really capable of distancing herself from, who can take some distance with what is happening. This has helped her at first. For example, when she discovered uh, the rapes and the horrendous nature of what happened to her, she first needed to put some distance between herself and the fact, because she felt that at that moment she wasn't ready to process what was happening to her, and that she needed time to understand and to, well, simply rebuild her life prior to really face the storm. And now I think that something similar is happening. Of course, all of this is very positive, but it may be overwhelming. The attention, the fact that everyone wants to know what she believes, what she will do in the future. She like to keep saying, well, I'm the same as before I became a public figure, and now I will take the time to think about what my life could be in the future. I had many lives, many different lives, and now I need time to think about what will be my future.
You've said how proud you are, of course, understandably. I wonder what you made of the light sentences that have been criticised. I know the family's disappointed for some of the other defendants who were sentenced yesterday.
Well, Gisèle Pelicot said that she respected the court's decision, she respected the court's verdict, and she doesn't feel disappointed at all. Her main goal was that all the aggressors, all the accused, be convicted for what they did, reminding that most of them, they claimed that they were innocent, that they had been the victims of Dominique Pelicot's diabolical trap. She wanted for everyone to be declared guilty of rape or sexual assault. And as far as the sentences, well, it's something that belongs to this power to impose a sentence is something that belongs to the court. She accepts that, and she accepts that the court decided to take into consideration many factors that it's hard to understand if one has not attended the hearings. We had 3.5 months of trial with many experts, many witnesses who came, and it's very difficult from the outside to understand this verdict if one doesn't have all the information.
But do you, as a lawyer, think that consent needs to be written into French law? Because a lot of people are surprised that it's not there.
Well, our current law doesn't necessarily need to change because the professionals, the police officers, the prosecutors, the judges, the lawyers, we all understand that our current law, of course, means that sexual act without consent is rape. But our current law says that a rape is an act of penetration committed by violence, constraint, surprise, or threat. Each of these parts, for example, in Mrs. Pelicot's case, it was constraint and surprise. Each of these criterion imply that there is no consent. So for the professionals, it's very clear. But if for the open public, the law is not clear enough, then the law definitely should be precise. But one should not believe that because there is not the word consent in our current law, it means that the consent is not important to define rape. Of course, it is the cornerstone of the definition of rape, the absence of consent. And this is currently the fact in our laws.
You're a man who's played this role in this historic case. What kind of conversations are men in France having when you bear in mind that some of these men who have been convicted of rape and sexual assault, well, they're all from very different parts of society. So what conversations are men in France having? What do they need to talk about now?
We know that men are statistically much more exposed to committing a rape or a sexual assault. And there has been this debate over whether men are genetically predisposed, more exposed of becoming an aggressor and women of becoming a victim. And the truth is that no, they're not. So it's necessarily the result of a certain culture, of the way men and women are both educated. And I think that this could be the one of the main lessons of this of the many lessons of this trial is to continue thinking about how to create a society where women would be safe, men would also be safe, and understand, try to find out what are the true causes that create these conditions for such aggression to be perpetrated again and again.
Do you think men need to have some difficult conversations? Have you started having some of those conversations with other men?
Well, what Gisèle Pelicot said is that she doesn't want men and women to feel that they are opposed one to each other. She doesn't want that. On the contrary, and well, she actually decided to be represented by two men, myself and my colleague Antoine Camus. So it was a sign to show that she doesn't think that men can never be trusted. But I think that yes, as men, we should probably interrogate ourselves about the way we have been educated, about our experiences, and the way we may sometimes think, because this may be a cultural representation, that the masculinity means exerting some kind of power, of some kind of domination against women. In our trial, what all the men had in common, you said they were coming from very different backgrounds, very different families. Some of them had been the victims of a sexual assault when they were young, some other they didn't. Some had families, some other they didn't. But what they all shared in common was a very degraded image of women, which had created into each of them the fantasy that sex with an unconscious woman was something that was desirable. And I think that the question is, why did they think that this was desirable?
Yeah. What do you think Gisèle will do now?
Well, first, she will rest because she's extremely tired. She's relieved that it came to an end. She's happy about the fact that the debate is now out, and then there are debates all over the world. So she feels that her mission somehow is accomplished, and she will do what she usually do. She will take time to think about her future, what her life will be. She is a 72 years old woman now, and I think that she will do what she has really missed during these almost 3.5 months. Is she will walk again because she loves walking in the nature. She loves being with her dog outside in the open nature, and this is something that she really missed over the 3.5 past months.
And just finally, there was a lot of a sort of internet campaign to make her a Person of the Year because Donald Trump was made Time magazine's Person of the Year. And I've seen her image on a sort of mocked up cover of the magazine so many times. What do you think on that?
Well, Giselle is someone who's very humble, and she saw these covers and she laughed a lot when she saw these covers because again she really feels she really feels ordinary, but what she believes is that the real persons that are extraordinary are all the women who are currently facing trials, procedures in sex offenses related cases, who are currently facing these cases alone. Because at some point of this case, she was alone too. There were no one clapping for her at the exit of the court. At some point, she was by herself, and she knows how hard it is to face this situation. She told me several times. I think about these women, I think about these victims, and I want them to know that when I am admired, I know that it's not my person who's admired, it's all the victims. And somehow
Mm.
I didn't choose, but I represent them.
And so they're the People of the Year.
It's honestly, it's something that she she sees what's happening as a responsibility. So, as I told you at the beginning of this discussion, her initial goal was to be there for 2 weeks, and when she saw that there was something bigger happening, she accepted the responsibility to have to be present until the end of the trial, and if her voice is needed in the future, her voice will be heard.